all of us here, this morning's appreciation event is a moment of special pride and remembering. For those who actually served during the Vietnam era, hopefully it'll be that and much more. 7 letters, that's all it takes to make the word Vietnam. Vietnam is more than a word, more than the name of a country, more than a war. For some, it was a time when generations and a nation were divided. For those of you who lived through it, it will always be remembered as a very turbulent time. American troop levels in Vietnam reached a high of 536,100 in 1968. By the time the United States pulled out of Vietnam on April 30, 1975, more than 58,000 American soldiers had died defending the freedoms we hold sacred, including 3,144 from Pennsylvania. Another 304,000 were wounded. Thousands bore deep mental scars from the horrors they endured. Fighting in Vietnam was unlike any war we had ever known at that time. The jungles, the monsoons, guerrilla warfare, and the ongoing political turmoil at home all made it even more challenging. Well, unfortunately, we were not as successful as we have been with other wars, but that does not and should not diminish the sacrifices that were made in protecting our country and protecting the very freedoms we cherish as American citizens. Unlike generations past, when soldiers returning from faraway battlefields were greeted with open arms and hailed as heroes, our Vietnam era veterans were disrespected and abused by an angry public. It is my sincere hope that in the decades since your return, we have made it clear that you are not forgotten by our country, which owes all of you so very much. This morning, on National Vietnam War Veterans Day, we are paying a special tribute to those of you from this area who served during the Vietnam era. The Vietnam era veterans saved millions from the spreading horrors of communism that countless people around the world now endure. An entire nation of men, women, and children is free today because of your sacrifice. May our Vietnam era veterans always be remembered for their fight against evil and the defense of liberty. Again, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to show you our appreciation for your service. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the co-host of this special event to say a few words, Senator John DeSanto.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. In 1975, as the involvement in Vietnam was coming to an end, I turned 15 years old. And I remember the political division within the country and watching the news on TV and Life magazine. I'm sure many of you remember Life magazine. And I just remember my frustration of not seeing the respect given to the Vietnam veterans as they returned. Growing up on the knees of World War II vets, my uncles, and my father was Korea. I was brought up in a family that respected the military and served. I have a nephew now that currently serves and other family members. But today, as we commemorate the 50th anniversary of the war, I'd like to recognize the service and sacrifices of the veteran and say my personal thank you to each and every one of you. The Vietnam veteran lapel pin you're about to receive was commissioned in 2008 by the National Defense Authorization Act in the United States Army, United States of America Vietnam War commemoration. It's a small token of our appreciation. The eagle, the blue circle, the laurel wreath, stripes and stars each have a special symbolism which is explained in the packet. As well as it says on the back, a grateful nation thanks and honors you is embossed on the back. Representative Helm and I are honored to present you with this special pin, and I'd like to thank her and her staff especially for putting this event together.
I now invite Stacy Geyer, a very talented young woman from Halifax in northern Dauphin County, to sing our national anthem. Stacy?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now I invite Ralph Adams of Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 542, to offer our invocation.
If everyone would like to bow in a word of prayer. Dear God, we thank you. We had our leaders make final planned actions, knowing that life-changing orders and battles were fought with men and women. Many wounded, many died, and us the living. God, you were with us all in our need of saving or our last breath of life, or caring for others, understanding our faith in our country and you, God. Be with those, God, that have served not only in Vietnam, but in any war or conflicts. Also be with their families and loved ones. Please bless this service today. For us, the living, will never forget those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, or us who have lived a life beyond the service that now are passing away. God is our director in life. Amen.
Now I'd like to welcome a good friend of mine, Jim Zugay, who is our Dauphin County Recorder of Deeds, to tell you a little bit about what his office does and can do for our veterans.
I want to thank Representative Helm and Senator DeSanto for allowing me to speak here today. As some of you already know, but some do not, the Dauphin County Recorder of Deeds is the repository for DD-214s in the county of Dauphin. Each county Recorder of Deeds, has the ability to record the DD-214 for safekeeping for everyone in their county. It is a tremendous honor and pleasure to do that. Our office houses records of mortgages, deeds, and so forth, and everything is public, except for your DD-214. So if your DD-214 is recorded in our office, it is not showable to the public. It cannot be seen by the public. It can only be seen by you or one of your representatives. So we take a great deal of pride in recording those. Several years ago, a lot of veterans came to me and said, hey, we'd like to get an ID card with a picture on it so that we could go and to other businesses in Dauphin County and receive a discount. Because these businesses are out there and they want to give a token of their appreciation for your service. And so they came to us and said, hey, but we need something to prove that folks are veterans, because there are some folks who take advantage of the system and say they're a veteran and don't have an ID, and it puts the business in a tough situation to say, well, are you truly a veteran? Well, we partnered with over 50 businesses, the list is growing and growing, that know that if you come into the Dauphin County Recorder of Deeds office, record your DD-214, or if you do it here today in our photo area, and you obtain the photo identification card, they know, the businesses know that that person is a veteran because we have confirmed that the DD-214 is on record. So we want to make sure that businesses aren't concerned whether or not there are folks out there getting the discounts that don't deserve it, because you certainly do. And it is my pleasure to run that. We started that about 2 years ago. We have over 50 businesses. We have over 500 veterans who have signed up for the card, and we hope to have that number grow and grow. So I want to thank, again, Representative Helm, Senator DeSanto, for partnering with us and allowing me to be part of your special day. Thank you so much.
It is now my great honor and pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, Major General Anthony J. Corelli, Adjutant General of Pennsylvania. Major General Corelli assumed his duties as Adjutant General in January of 2016. In this cabinet-level position with the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, headquartered at Fort Indiantown Gap, he is responsible for command, control, and supervision of National Guards units, both Army and Navy, allocated to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, 6 state-owned veterans' homes and programs for Pennsylvania's more than 800,000 veterans. He graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy with a Bachelor of Science degree and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1985. He served in the active duty Air Force for several years as a T-37, AT-38, and A-10 pilot. Following his release from active duty, Major General Corelli joined the Pennsylvania Air National Guard, where he served as commander of the 111 Fighter Wing and the 171 Air Refueling Wing, and Deputy Adjutant General Air before assuming his duties as Adjutant General. He has deployed in numerous operations, including Desert Storm, Southern Watch, and most recently Operations Enduring Freedom and Iraq Freedom.
Happy Vietnam Veterans Day to all those that served in that era. First off, I'd like to thank Representative Helm and Senator DeSanto for hosting this great event. I also want to comment, they are both extremely great supporters of our National Guard, of our military, and of our veterans. I work with them on a number of issues. They are not a stranger to Fort Indiantown Gap, where our state headquarters are. They come out to a number of events, and we appreciate both of your great support. I can also say, we have the National Cemetery out at Indiantown Gap as well, and we do a number of ceremonies there, and these two are always present at these events. So great supporters of our veteran community and our military community, and I thank you very much for doing that. I'd also like to thank the Dean. I'm not sure, I saw him here earlier. Oh, there he is right here. Christian Johnson for hosting this event. Again, it is not a rare occasion that we do veterans events here at Widener. So I thank you very much, Dean, for your support of our veterans community. We do a lot of veterans courts and veterans programs events right here hosted at the university, and the Dean also very much supports veterans and employee here at the university, and as well as students in the program. So I can't think of a better place to hold a veterans event than here at Widener. So thank you very much, Dean, for doing that. I'd like to kind of poll the audience a little bit and see who we're dealing with here. So I see a lot of people have some service identifications. I see some emblems. I see some service identification. So let's see who we're looking at here. Who's Army? Show of hands. Where's our Army? It's usually the biggest crowd. Okay. How about our Navy? Where's our Navy vets? A couple of Navy vets, all sitting kind of in the same area. That's probably not by accident. Marine Corps. Where's our Marines? There we go. Okay, a bunch of Marines. Air Force. Okay. All scattered about. I'm with you. Go Big Blue. Coast Guard. One coastie in the back. Okay. It would be very rare, but we had some merchant Marines that served from World War II that carried into Vietnam. Any in the room? It would be rare. Okay. So I thank you for all of your service. Obviously, I'm in the Air Force, but a military family. My dad was Marine Corps, and my brother was in the Army. And I honestly, still to this day, I think I chose wisely, but that's the way it goes. Now, what I'd also like is all of the, so obviously we're here to honor the Vietnam era veterans. All of the family members of the Vietnam veterans, please raise your hand or stand if you can. Please stand up. Family members, family members. How about a round of applause for our family members? You know, and I'll tell you that is, you know, there are a lot of things that I'll discuss in my remarks about things that weren't done right back in your era of service. And the way we look at our families, the way we honor our families, and the way we recognize the service of our families certainly is also one of those things that we didn't have right back then. So I love to point out the families because, you know, our families serve right alongside of us. And I don't care what era veteran that you are. I don't care what service you were in, what conflict you were in, what time of service that you had. Your family members serve right along. They may not be wearing the uniform, but they serve, they sacrifice. There's a lot of stressors that go along with that. And on many, many occasions, I think our families have it even a lot tougher than we do. So we owe our family members a lot. And any time that we reach out to honor our veterans, we also got to think about those families as well. So I thank the family members for coming here as well. I would be remiss. We're sitting at a university right behind me. You got the university logo there. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about history. So let's start. You know, why do we do this? You know, and we saw that flag. We had that beautiful rendition of the national anthem. Thank you so much, man. That was awesome. And we all stood there and we looked at that flag. And that flag, I'll tell you, is a beacon and it's a symbol. It's a symbol of freedom and liberty throughout the world. And I've had the great pleasure throughout my career to travel all over this world. In many, as Representative Helm mentioned, many of the operations that I got to participate in, and many other countries that I've been able to go to and spend time in Europe, in the Pacific, out in the Middle East, you know, you name it, I've pretty much been there. And no matter where you go, that flag means something, okay? And everybody recognizes it, and everybody knows what it is, okay? And people who embrace freedom, people that love liberty, whether they have it or don't, people that all want it, know that that's the path to freedom. That flag right there is a path to freedom throughout the world, and there's respect for it. And then there's some other places around the world where essentially different sects of the world or government or terrorist organizations have become our enemies. And they also understand what that flag stands for. And they fear that flag because it's opposed to the ideology that they're trying to spread throughout the world. So that flag means a lot, and it goes back, you know, nearly 250 years ago in our history, about 100 miles from here in Philadelphia. And it started with that Declaration of Independence, which started this country. But that declaration, you know, as I like to say, is really just a piece of paper. You know, a lot of bright forefathers phrased specific language to put into that declaration to start this country, to make this country what it was, and then essentially turning it into a constitution that this government was built on. But, you know, in reality, those are just pieces of paper. And it took this country's first generation of veterans to actually make it so. Okay, just putting words on paper did not set us free. Okay, it was those brave, patriotic Americans that put on the uniforms of the first military that this country formed, that left their homes, picked up arms, and fought for this nation's freedom 250 years ago. That's what set us forth. That's what freedom is today. As you know, we're sitting here on a Friday morning. It's starting to warm up again. We think winter is over. I think the groundhog was about right this year. It's starting to warm up, and we're looking at a nice weekend this weekend. It's going to, you know, all throughout the local area you can travel. You're going to see kids playing sports in the park, families doing picnic, people walking their animals, going to church, free to go to any church that you want to go to. There'll be people shopping. There'll be people traveling, going to New York City to go see the sights. Maybe running down to D.C. to go see some of the monuments. Some people maybe heading out to shore for early shore season. You know, take a look around this weekend when you're out and about in the area. That's what freedom looks like. Okay, that's what freedom feels like, and many in this country take that for granted because you've had it your entire life. And everywhere you go, you're free to choose whatever you want to be. Whatever profession you choose, wherever you want to live, whoever you choose to associate, whatever religious beliefs that you choose to practice. You know what? Most of this world does not enjoy those type of freedoms. I know many of us take that for granted. I get to spend a lot of time in Lithuania. Lithuania is a state partner of Pennsylvania. Their president was just here about two weeks ago to come see us. She visited us at Fort Indian Town Gap. Very, very good friends of ours. They're now members of NATO. Actually, yesterday was the 15th anniversary of their joining NATO. But people in Lithuania that are my age were born under Soviet oppression. Okay, they weren't allowed to speak Lithuanian in public. They didn't even teach Lithuanian in their schools. They were forced to teach Russian in their schools. They weren't allowed. Lithuania is about 98% Catholic. Catholicism they were trying to stamp it out. Everyone was mandated to be a Russian Orthodox religion, and all the Catholic churches were closed. Okay, these are people our age, okay, people my age that grew up with that, and now they have a fresh taste for freedom. They've been free now for 28 years, and a lot of that due to that flag right there, and what this country has done throughout the world, throughout Europe. So in our history, every generation of Americans have been asked to do that, and your generation is no different. And many of your generation, I mean, people talk about World War II. So obviously World War II was our largest event by numbers of veterans, just over 16 million veterans in World War II. But it was a world war. It was in Europe. It was in the Pacific. It was over top of the continent, on the sea, under the sea, the entire Atlantic, the entire Pacific, the entire world was consumed by World War II. 16 million veterans served in that war. And then, of course, we get to Vietnam, starting in the early 60s with the advisors, and then as it ramps up through the mid-60s, and then with the high point, as Representative Helm said, with the Tet Offensive, in 68 into 69, over 500,000 people over there at that time. Do you know in that era, over 9 million of your comrades served in Vietnam? And let's look at a globe and look at the area that was consumed by the war for Vietnam. And essentially, if you look at Vietnam itself, yes, the bodies of water on either side, and some of the surrounding countries that certainly that it spilled into, but it's such a small area. When you look at what the global war was in World War II, 9 million people consumed into that just small area. It was just a fantastic proportion to have that many Americans serving in such a small portion of the world for such a long period of time. I mean, it was a significant event in American history. And you all in this room, the ones that we're honoring today, you were there, okay? You served during that time. You answered your generation's call to service. And partly why we're here today is to honor you for that service, but also discuss, the way the country was back then. And yes, this country's priorities were very screwed up. And as the senator mentioned, myself, I was born in 1963. So the war was already ongoing when I was born, and I remember seeing some of that on TV, but I don't recall a lot of that. But I can tell you, when I came into the service in 1981, so I'm a Reagan boom kid. I came in. President Reagan had just came in and was starting to build the military back up. I've been in this uniform since 1981. I and anyone in my era or younger does not know a time where we were not 100% supported by this country, okay? I do not know a time in the entire, all the decades I've been wearing this uniform, I do not know a single time where I didn't go out in public in a uniform and people didn't come up to me and shake my hand and say, thank you for service, pat me on the back. In a diner, in a lunch facility somewhere, and people would buy my meal for me, okay? Why is that like that today? And it wasn't like that when you guys were there. Well, I'll tell you, it's because of you and your generation. We owe you so much, not just for your service, and every generation of Americans that served, we owe them. Okay, We owe the ones that put the uniform on, the families that served around them, that sacrificed to do what their generation was called to do. And if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be standing here today. Okay? That flag that stands behind me would not be the beacon of freedom that it is today. Any one of these generations did not answer that call. It's going to go away. You know, President Reagan, I mentioned him in one of his inaugural addresses. He mentioned, you know, freedom is not something that's guaranteed. It is not something that's passed through the blood. You can't inherit freedom. It's not something that we're always going to have. It's something that every generation must cherish, serve, fight for, and defend, each generation at a time. And if there's ever some generation in our future that's unwilling to do that, then our children, our children's children, or their children at some point will be talking about, yeah, what a great life we used to have when we used to be free. And that's an important point. And your generation, you answered your nation's call, and we can't thank you enough for your service during that period. So that's one of the biggest things that we honor you for is for serving in your nation's military and serving during your period of time. The other thing that we have to thank you for is, you know, in your time, you obviously weren't treated the way that you should have been treated. You know, the society didn't respect the service that you had. And it's not that way anymore. And it's not that way not because of an accident. It's that way because of your generation. You know, your generation over the last 2 decades have really been the leaders in our community. You have been the business owners, the community leaders, members of our local governments and our school boards. And you were unwilling to let that go. And it was your generation's commitment that no other veterans, no other generation of veterans are going to be treated the way that you were treated. And you changed that. You changed that narrative. You changed that in society. You changed that in our government. Your membership in these community events, your presence in local government, your presence in the veteran service organizations, you changed the narrative. You look at how many programs we have now. You know, so I have soldiers and airmen that just deployed. You know, we just had about nearly 2,000 members return from deployment over the past year. And now we do yellow ribbon events for them. We invite them and their families come out. All their benefits are explained to them. These family programs, education programs, counseling programs, PTSD type things, a lot of these medical benefits, a lot of the VA benefits that we do for family members now. None of that stuff existed when you were serving. But your generation ensured that our generation was going to be taken care of because you didn't want anyone else to be treated the way that you were treated. We now are the beneficiaries of that, and I thank you so much for that. The other thing your generation has done for my generation is you always show up. You know, the Vietnam veterans hats, the T-shirts, the sweatshirts. You know, you cannot go to a single one of our unit deployments. When we have a unit send-off, when we're at the airports, when we're at the bases, and the buses pull up and the family members are saying goodbye, you can't go to one of those single events. When our soldiers and our airmen come back from a deployment, same thing. You can't go to a single one of them events without seeing a Vietnam veterans hat, sweatshirt, T-shirt somewhere. Because you guys continue to show up for us to support the next generation of military that are out there serving their country today. You are the greatest recruiting and retention tool that we have ever had because you refuse to let our people today be treated the way that you were treated. And you have changed that narrative, okay? Our military is much more different now. The amount of benefits that we have, the amount of programs that we have, the counselings, the medical things, the things that we do for our families now are entirely different. And they were sorely needed. And yes, I feel tremendously bad that they were not available to you, but I am thankful for you because I know because of what you have done that we have those today. So I thank you so much, not only for your service, the time that you spent in uniform, but also for changing that narrative and making future generations get the respect that they certainly deserve, and for honoring our young serving members today and their families as they go out and deploy and serve this country for us. You know, I'm essentially at the tail end of my career, but I look, you know, we have a force of nearly 20,000 in the Pennsylvania Guard, airmen and soldiers, and we have a lot of, you know, we have 17-year-old guardsmen that are already gone to basic training. They haven't even graduated high school yet. You know, they go on their summer off between their junior and their senior year. But we have a lot of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids, I will say, in our service today. They're very bright. They're motivated. You know, I have two daughters, 20 and 28. So I fall into the same trap that I think most of us have. We talk about the next generation. Oh man, these kids today. You know, I can't believe they won't do this, they won't do that. They don't work as hard as we worked. You know, when I was in school, you know, I used to have to walk 5 miles to school, uphill, both ways, 2 feet of snow, you know, that whole thing. You know, we all do that. That's a generational thing. But I'll tell you, you know, the young kids that we have in our force today, they're just outstanding. They are the best and brightest that Pennsylvania has to offer. They are motivated. They want to serve. They love wearing the uniform. They're volunteering. They want to deploy. They want to serve their country. That flag that stands behind me, that means something to them. They wear it on their shoulder, and they wear it proudly. You know, they wouldn't be here in uniform if it wasn't for what you guys did. You know, so, you know, I can't underestimate the contribution of your era that has made to this country. You know, not only the time that you served and the things that your generation did to protect freedom during your time, but I'm talking during my time too. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for what you all did and how you changed that narrative and how you ensured that our soldiers, airmen, sailors, and Marines and coasties today are treated with the respect that they are treated today. So, you know, I can't thank you enough. You make up the biggest part of our veterans population here in Pennsylvania. As was mentioned, nearly 800,000 veterans in Pennsylvania. Over 272,000 are Vietnam veterans. So you are the biggest group. You have the biggest influence. And again, we can't thank you enough for everything that you have done for this nation and for this Commonwealth and for our currently serving military. So I salute you all today, and I thank you very much for your service. Enjoy the rest of your day, and as you fan out this weekend, you know, listen to what freedom sounds like. Look at what freedom looks like. You know, we don't take that for granted, and we understand that you help put that there. So thank you very much for what you do for all of us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
We now ask that Vietnam era veterans who are here and who have not already received a 50-year commemorative pin to stand and come down with, like, down this aisle. We're going to have staff direct you, but I think if we come down this aisle and then go up this aisle, it'll work pretty well. So we're going to have be myself, General Corelli, Senator DeSanto will pin the pin on you with the assistance of our staff. And at this time, our Recorder of Deeds, Jim Zugay, will read the names of all of the Vietnam era veterans in attendance today, and some who at the last minute were not able to be here. So we're going to have the pinning ceremony right now.
The names of the veterans are as follows: Armand Acri, Ralph Adams, Richard Bender, Glenister Blanchard, Richard Bordner, Max Bowman, Pete Busby, James Cavanaugh, Raymond Collard, Michael Sear, Ken Davidson, Roger Decker, Edward Fake, John Frank, Freddie Hall, John Roosevelt Grant, Jr., David Hemler, Stephen Hilton, David Holmes, George Hornberger, Kenneth Hutchinson, Richard Kern, Jr., Charles Kibler, Janana Kirkland. I got you. We'll get you there. Gary Kistler, Lester Copenhaver, William Copenhaver, Tom Kovat, Leroy Lippy, Jr., Larry McCarter, Dennis Magdul, Joseph Novak, Sr., Erna O'Brien, Kevin O'Brien, Richard Bordner, Kim Rebuck, John Ruckdeschel, Roger Seltzer, Jeffrey Stansfield, Coleman Toth, Gilbert Troutman, Cloyd Zimmerman, Jacob Zimmers. Thank you so much for your service.
Once again, please welcome Stacy Geyer, who is going to sing Proud to Be an American.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this God bless the USA, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
On behalf of myself and Senator DeSanto, I would like to thank Ralph Adams, Jim Zugay, Adjutant General Corelli, and most specifically all of our veterans here today. Without your service and sacrifice, we wouldn't enjoy the freedoms we take for granted every day in this great country of ours. We are all truly heroes. You are all truly heroes. Thank you so much. And now I just have some quick comments. Mission Barbecue on Jonestown Road has invited all Vietnam era veterans to enjoy a free sandwich at their restaurant today from 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. We also have Lisa Legovich from the Daughters of the American Revolution in the lobby with some information and items for you to take along. And please don't forget to pick up your certificates in the back of the room and join us for some refreshments and fellowship in the lobby. Thank you again. I appreciate you all being here and your service. Thank you.